This video is an introduction to JISC Online Surveys. JISC Online Surveys is a very powerful online survey tool, and all University of Hull staff can request an account through the support portal. For students, you will need your supervisor or lecturer to make this request for you. I'm going to start off by showing a sample survey. This will give you a feel for the kind of data you can collect with JISC Online Surveys. With JISC Online Surveys, we can make questions required or compulsory. In this case, my very first question is required, so it's not going to let me move to the next page unless somebody selects an option. In this case, I agree. This is a really good example of how you can use JISC Online Surveys to force somebody to agree or consent to the ethics of your research before they can proceed. On this page, we've got a really good example of the kinds of questions that you can ask in JISC Online Surveys. It supports multiple choice questions with both a single or multiple answer. In the case of this question, it's only going to let me tick one choice, whereas with the multiple answer option, it will let participants tick as many answers as relevant. As with the first page, I can make these questions compulsory, shown by the required here. If I'd not selected an option, it wouldn't let me proceed to the next page. You can also use list questions, single line free text, and multi-line free text. Of course, these questions are just examples of what the format looks like. There's no text here that was meaningful. You can also use some logic in JISC Online Surveys. If I choose choice 1, for example, you'll see it takes me to the next page. However, were I to choose choice 2, it would skip this page and take me to the one after it. These two pages show the rest of the remaining question types available in JISC Online Surveys. Let's go to this page first. This is called a grid question. Grid questions are a really useful way to get your participants to answer multiple questions without cognitively feeling like they're doing so. So here I have a Likert scale and I have 4 separate questions, and in doing so I've answered 4 questions, but it doesn't really feel like that. These are used by researchers to leverage a lot of data from their participants without them feeling like they're doing so. As well as grid questions, JISC Online Surveys also supports scale questions. These can be used for ranking purposes as well. So you'll see I have 2 separate examples available here. In my scale question, it enables me to select on a scale, in this case from 1 to 7, to what extent I want to rate something. In this question, it's asking me to choose which of these choices is my first, second, third, or fourth. You'll notice it's got some logic in here to make sure that I only select each of these places once and I don't select one of them multiple times. The final examples of questions that we have are date, time, and date and time questions. These are fairly straightforward and allow your participants to specify both times and dates. As soon as I click finish, that would submit those responses, and it would also let me have a custom page to thank people for their responses. So that's a really good example of a survey. If I go to my dashboard, you can see how I've designed this. If I go to any survey, you'll notice there's 3 options: design, distribute, and analyze. Design is there to help you specify the questions, order your pages, and put all of the details into the survey that you wish to collect. Distribute includes all of the settings such as the URL that you will share when the survey opens and when it closes. Essentially everything you need to share this survey with whoever you want to respond. Finally, Analyze lets you look at the results and export them for use in different programs. If we look at the design view, you'll see it splits itself into pages and questions. If you look at distribute, you'll see it includes all of the information here about how to launch a survey. And if we looked in analyze, it would show me any responses while the survey is open. Of course, this is an example and it has no data within it. So let's start off by creating a new survey. I'm going to return to my JISC dashboard and click create new. And I'm going to call this example. You'll see if I want to add pages, I can use these add page buttons here. So I'm going to create a question page. And I'm going to use this first page as my introduction. So here I'm going to add item, and the first thing I'm going to do is go for notes. In here I would type all of the information needed for ethics, approval, consent, and to inform people how the data has been used. That will do for now though. I'm then going to add another item, and this time I'm going to choose my very first question, which is the I agree option. So I'm going for a multiple choice single answer. I'm just going to ask, do you agree? Let's go for do you consent? I consent to take part in this survey and agree with how my data will be managed. And then under advanced options, I'm going to make this required. This is the thing that will force people to tick this before they can go to the next page. So that's the first page sorted. Of course, if I have a long survey, it may be more than just one single page, but I'm only going to give you an example of putting in a couple of questions just to give you a feel for how this works. So you can see here, I'm going to add an item on this page, and I'm going to choose a multiple choice single answer question. I'm going to ask people, what is your gender? And I'm going to give the options that I wish to provide. You'll also notice that under advanced options, I am able to specify an other, and I can allow a single line of text for this. So if I add this question now, you'll see there are 4 options, and when people tick other, it automatically brings up this follow-on question for them. This is where it can get a little bit confusing because you'll see there's add item buttons all over the place. If I add an item here, this would be a distinct separate question from this one. If I added an item here, it would be a follow-on from question 2, very much like this A is here. And of course, if I added an item here, it would be a follow-on question from this one. Adding an item here would be, of course, a follow-on question from this, just like the A is, but it would renumber this to A and this to B. So I'm going to add another item, and this time I'm going to go for a single line of free text. I'm just going to put, what is your age, as an example. You'll see I can also make this required. I can adjust the size of the input box. In this case, it only needs to be 3 characters long because I'm expecting people to type a number. I can also force this to be the same. I can also restrict. So in this case, I'm going to restrict it to a number. Of course, I can specify a reasonable range through which I'm expecting to receive the response. So this is a really good example of just how easy JISC Online Surveys is to use, and you just need to continue to build your survey using these options. If at any point you do get stuck, the JISC Online Survey website does have a very good help and support section. In here you can access loads of questions about designing, distributing, analysing and managing your account. It's very much your first point of call. If I go back to my survey, down the left hand side, you'll see there's some options to do with survey appearance, survey settings, files, permissions and export options. The only one that we really need to look here are the survey settings. And you'll see here it gives you a number of options, such as enabling people to go backwards and forwards, to save their answer and come back later to finish, to display a progress bar to show people how far through the survey they are, whether or not you want question numbers to display, if you want to give them a completion receipt or allow a response printout. There's also some options in here for your copyright and screening, and also some advanced option here to allow you to give it an internal name that would be not viewable to your participants. At any point you can preview your survey. This will allow you to test, make sure everything is working, and of course you can also navigate using the buttons at the top. If you use these two, it just lets you view pages without taking into account logic. If you use the next and previous buttons down here, it would take into account the logic in that particular page. So for example, if I relaunch my preview and try to go next now, it's not letting me continue because I've not ticked that box. But as I am the author of the survey, it would let me preview forward regardless of having a response. So let's have a look at the distribute settings. Most of these are filled in. So by default, it would set the opening time from when you created the survey, and the closing time is generally a month away from then. But you have full access to edit all of these settings. You can use the change open and date options here. It's also useful to go to distribution settings on the left hand side and just check you're happy with everything. This lets you specify a custom URL for your survey, the opening and closing dates and times, and you can also put some information in about expected responses, or you can close your survey if a certain number is reached. This will not limit, but it will give you an idea of how close you are to your expectation. You can also put some web addresses to direct people to if they're too early for the survey or too late. And here are some custom pages that you can use depending on what you want to tell people if the survey is not yet opened or if it has already closed. The only thing that you really need to do once all of this is ready is launch the survey, but you must really make sure you're happy with your survey before you do this. While you'll have some very limited options to edit your survey once it is launched, you should really not edit things at all because it's very bad for survey stability, and it also can change the reliability of your data. In short, if you make a mistake, you're better deleting the survey and starting again. This can have real consequences if you're sharing a URL and getting people to fill things in. So really you should make sure that the survey's absolutely ready for launch before you do that. Once you've launched a survey, you can use that public URL to share with people, and they'll be able to use that to contribute their responses. I'm going to go back to my dashboard to show you the Analyze option for an alternative survey. So I'm going to go for something with a few responses in it. And I'm going to choose the Analyze option. You'll notice that because this has some responses, in my browser I can actually view all of these different things. It will give me some very basic bar charts that show me the responses. I can also use the export option here to export my response data, and I can do this into Excel, SPSS, CSV and TSV files. There's also a number of options I can use to customize that export. Hopefully this quick video has been useful for you and will help you decide if you want to use JISC Online Surveys, and if you have decided to use it, hopefully this will help you get started. Remember, for any questions, head to the main website and choose the Help and Support option. The knowledge base has loads of helpful articles that will show you what you need to click on and how to do it.